Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of the Valkyries and Valko supporters out there, wherever you are, at whatever time you happen to be watching this. I hope that you are all doing well, that you are all taking care of yourselves. I know that there's been a lot of disappointment from some people within the community about the fact that there still hasn't been news from Infold even up to now. I know that so many people were really looking forward to the 29th and setting that as a date, a deadline where Infold would finally break their silence and speak to us about Valko. Many people were looking forward to that, but we all know now that they haven't said anything. And while my heart really goes out to the people who feel disappointed by Infold's silence, I personally hadn't vested any kind of expectations that Infold would say anything on the 29th, but I can totally understand people who are feeling disappointed by their silence. I just want to say that while it's okay to feel that kind of disappointment and while it's okay to hold space for your emotions, I do think that it's important to keep in mind that sensitive dates have sensitivity for a reason. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I've just seen a lot of people who are venting their frustrations about Infold's silence on the 29th, not understanding why a lot of people were saying that the reason why we didn't feel Infold would say anything on the 29th or anytime during this next coming week is because of these sensitive dates, the 31st of July, the 1st of August. And, I'm just seeing a lot of people saying that they don't understand why people are saying those dates are sensitive. They're saying things like, oh, but Infold has posted on sensitive dates before. But one thing that I want to point out is that Infold has never been in a situation like this before. Well, in terms of love and deep space, that is. So that definitely changes the perspective in which they're moving in these days. They're definitely going to want to be a lot more cautious and not just say anything at any time, because that could definitely backfire on them and open them up to a lot more drama and problems that they really don't need right now. And as for, some of these sensitive dates, maybe you're one of those people who doesn't understand why exactly they are sensitive. With the 31st of July, I haven't been able to find anything that says that in China, it has always culturally been a sensitive date. Maybe perhaps that is the case, but I do think that this date is sensitive more so in relation to this specific case with Valko. And the reason why is because we all know that Valko's whole controversy got twisted up with Unit 731. And, the date, July 31st, directly mirrors Unit 731, which made it really inconvenient and unwise for Info to say anything around that date. And I know that there's some people who are saying, okay, but the 29th is not the 31st. But it's like, even saying anything before the 31st, knowing that the 31st would still come after, it would still kind of be opening a can of worms that I can totally understand Infold not wanting to open up. So yeah, even if the date, the 29th, is not exactly the 31st, it's just still around that date. It's still too close to that date. And for me, it's understandable why they wouldn't want to say anything anywhere near this date, especially because, the 731 backlash in China, it was huge. I feel like it landed them in a lot of trouble, and it's one of the things that really twisted the public against Valko and Infold. But yeah, having said that, there was nowhere where, the company made a huge statement saying that they would address the Valko situation on the 29th. Now, I understand that there was that Facebook post made on, the Taiwanese Facebook page where they talked about announcing the winners for the Caleb competition and how they would address recent related events, and many people speculated that they might be talking about the Valko situation. But it's like I pointed out in my own video when I made, a video talking about that post, I mentioned that I didn't think that they were talking about the Valko situation because it was so strange that if they were saying that they would address the Valko situation, why would they only post that on one social media platform in only one of the languages that they communicate in? Like, that's such a monumental thing to say that I felt like they would have put it around everywhere. They would have posted it across all the social media platforms, across all the languages in which they communicate, and to say that, hey guys, on the 29th, we will be coming out with an official statement regarding the Valko situation. So I personally never saw that as a sign that they would talk about Valko on the 29th. But again, I understand if you were hopeful that they would talk about Valko on the 29th, right? But yeah, as for the August 1st, now that one is a culturally sensitive date in the sense that companies don't make monumental statements on that date. Now, companies and individuals and stuff like that, it's not that they're not allowed to speak up at all on anything on the 1st of August. It's just that it's considered arrogant and taboo and just unwise for a company to say anything that could overshadow the significance of that day. And if Infold slash Paper Games were to speak up around that date about Valko especially, it would most definitely overshadow the significance of August 1st in China, since Valko is such a huge topic in China and all over the world. And Infold definitely doesn't want that, right? I'm not sure exactly. I haven't gone to look at their past social media posts, but maybe sure they may have said things related to the game on August 1st before in the past, right? But I do think that there's a huge difference between them, for example, announcing a new plushie being released in the game on August 1st in a situation where they're not receiving a lot of backlash from the public. And there's a difference between that and them talking about releasing Valko on the 1st of August, right? Those are two completely different situations. So even if they may have made posts or statements before in the past on the 1st of August, it's just a completely different situation with what they're facing up against right now. While I'm not meaning to put any kind of deadlines, I just feel like it would make sense for them to wait until July 31st and August 1st are cleared out. Now, I'm not saying that for sure Infold is going to come up with a statement immediately after the 1st of August is over. I don't know that for sure, but I'm just not seeing any kind of like sensitive or clashing dates that would prevent them from speaking out anytime after the 1st of August. Now, I'm personally not Chinese or anything, but from what I've seen, a lot of the CN girlies are saying like, no, after the 1st of August, they also are not seeing any kind of date that would clash with a statement from Infold. Again, that is to say, I'm not saying that they're going to come out with a statement about Valko after the 1st of August, but yeah, I hope I got my point across. Okay, now that I've got that out of the way, the whole deadline thing, I'm aware that this leaves us with a lot of questions. There's still, the whole thing about when Infold is going to make a statement, which nobody except Infold themselves can answer. And I don't think they're out here trying to give us hints or statements about when they intend to talk about Valko. So that remains up in the air. But yeah, it just seems like we're in a place where a lot is uncertain still, and people are running out of steam. A lot of people are questioning if this boycott is worth it, if it's worth it for them to continue on with the boycott. What exactly are our goals now? How have our goals changed from before, if they have changed at all? And what can we be doing now within this space of silence that could, do the things that we need them to do? And by that I mean, well, it's clear that Infold seems to be pursuing legal action against the people who defamed them. We've heard talk about how there's new laws that are being passed in China. There's also so much clear evidence that public perception in China regarding Valko and lads seems to be changing. One of the pieces of good news that I've recently heard is that people in China have noticed that lads slash Valko related sponsored content is being put up again. So this was noticed a few days ago, and the reason why this is so significant is because sponsored content isn't just any kind of content. Did I say concert? Sponsored content isn't just any kind of content, right? The content creators who were sponsored to promote Valko around the time that he was being introduced to the public and stuff, I did hear that soon after, I'm pretty sure a lot of them either deleted their post or hid them, they archived them. But recently, a lot of them were unarchiving the content that they had been posting around that time that Valko was being introduced. And so this could kind of be like a sign that maybe Infold told them that it was okay for them to archive their posts and stuff like that. But yeah, if this is true, then that is really, really good news. And I really hope that is true. it's just such a shame that I haven't been able to get onto Weibo myself, because it's a lot harder getting onto Weibo than it is getting onto Rednote. But yeah, if you were anywhere around X, Threads, those kinds of spaces, I'm sure you've seen videos from Chinese social media circulating about people calling out the bullies who basically bullied Infold and were so against Valko. A lot of them were being called out. I've even heard that, there's a CN player who is sharing a Valko wolf filter. She made it herself and she's been sharing it. A lot of people have been posting pictures of themselves using that filter on Rednote. I've just been on Rednote myself, and it was really nice seeing those filters being used. A lot of people showing their public support for Valko. And I've also heard that Valko was trending on Weibo's Super Topic a few days ago. And I've even seen on Rednote myself that there are many Chinese people who play other games who are claiming their support for Valko and his supporters on Chinese social media. Honestly, this is all just so good to see. And I just want to say that this is something that I expected personally. And by that I mean that when the official media sources first started to publish positive perspectives on Valko, I'm talking about those earlier articles and stuff like that. When they first started to come out, I saw a lot of people who were expressing this kind of like expectation that Infold would immediately reinstate Valko into the game again after, only one or two public official media articles came to the public, right? And I was like, when people were expressing these kinds of expectations, I personally thought it was a bit premature for people to hold those kinds of expectations, because with these kinds of things, especially when we consider how public opinion had completely turned against Valko and Infold, so many people were believing in all of these lies about him and stuff like that. So when you think about that, it's like it would obviously take time for these public pieces of news and media and articles to circulate to the general public, and for people to get an understanding of what Valko and the game are actually about. How he wasn't involved in the whole Unit 731 thing, and how he wasn't a threat to women's safety, and all of those other kinds of claims that were being made about him. Like, it was just so realistic to expect that public opinion would need time to catch up. That's why all of those CN players, they were sharing clarification videos and stuff like that, because it's only half of the problem solved to have official media outlets publishing positive news about Valko. The other half is up to public opinion to then get the message and follow suit in their understanding that Valko wasn't this horrible character, that he wasn't all of the things that they were saying about him. So yeah, I honestly expected that sooner or later public opinion would start to change, Valko would be perceived more positively, and I think that this is wonderful. I think that this is amazing. This is definitely the kind of environment that is good and conducive for Valko to be reinstated as a character again. It just makes sense because now Infold doesn't have to fear receiving so much backlash from the public regarding their decision to release Valko, if indeed and hopefully that's the direction that they choose to take. But it's just unfortunate that with good news also comes bad news. I've been seeing that the antis themselves, they are not giving up. They are gearing up to fight harder now that it's clear that this fight seems to be out of their hands. Like, it's really getting away from them. Things are becoming more and more in our favor and less in their favor. And they're definitely seeing that. And it seems like they are doing their best to try harder, to fight harder against Valko coming back into the game. I recently saw a video of a CN Valko hater who went to the Infold/Paper Games building and harassed these two security guards and a receptionist while trying to give them a letter to pass on to the development team. In the video, she mentioned that she and a few other antis had sent a letter before via mail where they'd given the development team a 15-day deadline to answer them. But since the deadline was ignored, she felt it necessary to show up in person to make sure she got through to the dev team this time. Of course, she was turned away by the receptionist and the security guards, and it seems like things didn't escalate too far. But I was honestly just shocked. Wow, this kind of behavior, it is truly so shocking. And to think that they could give a whole company a 15-day deadline to answer them and their demands. It's just, you really have to wonder about what goes on in these people's minds. Like, how are they thinking this way? Like, how can they, what kinds of thoughts and logics, if one can even use that word, are they using in order to get to these kinds of conclusions where they think it's okay to behave in these ways? But anyway, in another case, a toxic Silas was shortly appointed moderator of a lads related super topic, and one of the first things she did was delete a lot of Valko related content, but thankfully she was removed as a moderator and all posts of Valko were restored soon after. There's also, because I haven't been able to confirm them myself, so I will just call them rumors, and I will caution you to take it all with a grain of salt. But I heard that the bullies, the Valko haters, are also going after other games, trying to vent their frustrations, whatever frustrations it is that they have with their lives, by taking down another game, the same way that they did with 11 Deep Space. And I even heard that they drafted an acquisition plan to take over Infold so they could own 11 Deep Space and all the characters themselves. Again, now, I don't know how real any of this is, but if it is real, that would be utterly ridiculous. Like, come on, seriously? They seriously think that they can acquire 11 Deep Space or the whole entire Infold/Paper Games company? This has honestly just gone too far. But anyway, yeah, I've also heard that they are still trying whatever they can to report 11 Deep Space for crimes against consumer rights. It's clear that these bullies are not giving up, and I feel like it's also important for us to keep that in mind and to not give up either. I feel like we should also expect to gear up for more boycotting if that's something that you are interested in doing. I think, but I'll talk more on that later. I just want to say that me personally, I feel like things are definitely still on our side. I know that it's hard to feel sure about anything in these uncertain times, and I'm not claiming certainty in Valko coming back or anything. But when I just look at the way that the wind is flowing, when I look at the direction the wind is blowing, when I look at the direction that the tides are turning, everything just seems to be in our favor. Everything seems to be on our side. And by that, I mean official media, public opinion, and even actual laws are either directly in favor of Infold reinstating Valko as a character, or they're just not necessarily against Valko or Infold. And all those three, they were major obstacles that were hindering Valko from being brought back as a character in Love and Deep Space. The media, the government, public opinion. But all of those three, they really seem to be out of the way now, and there's a much clearer pathway for Valko to be reinstated. Now it just seems like there's a few loose ends that need to be tied up, and those would be the bullies, who are obviously still trying to cause trouble. So it makes sense why Infold is still keeping quiet. And by that, I mean, it's like, the bullies, they're definitely still out there. They're going to try their hardest to find anything, literally anything, that they can snag onto to get Infold into trouble, right? Now, if Infold were to make a move that would give the bullies any kind of ammunition to cause that kind of trouble before they're in a situation where they know that they are 100% in the clear and able to make a move, right? If they were to do anything of the sort, it's like, I feel like the drama this time around would be even worse than the first time around. And by that, I mean, it's like it would be even harder for Infold to get out of the trouble this time, because if something were to happen and the government were to get involved again, who's going to clear them now? They would be in less than a month, actually. They would have gotten in trouble with government-related authorities if the bullies were to succeed in getting any kind of ammunition against Infold/Paper Games and causing round 2 of drama, right? So when you think about it that way, it's like, yes, the bullies are a loose end that needs to be dealt with. And yes, the biggest obstacles have already been dealt with somewhat. But at the same time, the bullies can't be underestimated. They're the ones who caused this whole thing in the first place. So Infold laying low and making sure that they only come up with a statement when they know that they 100% can, it makes sense why they would take that route, in my opinion. And not only that, but like I've been mentioning in my past couple of videos, they are going through legal procedures, taking to court whoever needs to be taken to court, which is honestly good for them. But yeah, whenever you're involved in legal proceedings and things of that nature, it's always best advised for you to limit the kinds of statements that you're making to the public so that you don't cause any kind of backlash to come back against you and really just backfire against you. So again, when you consider the bullies and when you consider the legal procedures that they're going through, it makes sense why they're being quiet. Though, again, I totally understand the frustration. I do. I am frustrated myself. There's a part of me that just kind of feels a bit numb to a lot of the things that are happening. I just want Valko back. Honestly, like, I feel like I've been living somewhat numbed to my life because I'm just like in this limbo state of waiting. And I totally understand how frustrating and awful that feeling is because I feel so frustrated and annoyed with it. I want this all to be over. I wish I could have a button that I could click that would just take me to the future where Valko is there and everything is okay, and I don't have to feel constantly threatened or uncertain about things, you know, constantly questioning, oh, when is Infold gonna say something, or wondering if the bullies are going to pull another major move again. It's just not an ideal way to live. So really, I understand that frustration, but I do think that it's important for us to view things objectively and from all angles, because it can really help us in our mental health when we can understand, when we can bring ourselves to understand why Infold still hasn't said anything. I just think that it's important to always remember that the silence isn't a definite no, right? I just also wanted to remind everyone about the whole September 1st thing. I'm seeing a lot of talk about how a new law is coming into effect, and I've spoken about this before in one of my previous videos. But yeah, I do think that that is good news. There's nowhere official where it says that the new law is directly linked to the 11 Deep Space drama. So I do want to say that just keep in mind that they might not say anything Valko related until after September 1st. They might give a statement before September 1st. We don't have any kind of evidence to say that for Infold, September 1st is an important date that they are making plans around, right? But I do think that it's not wrong to keep your eye on September 1st. It's not wrong to speculate that because this law has a lot to do with a lot of the reasons why Valko was cancelled, that might be thinking about that law themselves, although we can't say anything for certain. But yeah, I do not want to set any deadlines because so many people were so upset and disappointed about July 29th. So what I'm saying, it's all purely speculation, right? Okay. Last but not least, I just wanted to offer my congratulations to the people who won the Caleb contest. Good for them. That sounds really good. That sounds really nice for them. But yeah, as I said earlier on in the video, I do think that we can expect to gear up for some more boycotting. Maybe I'll talk more about the reasons why it's still important for us to boycott even now going forward in August. I'll talk about that in another video, and I'll talk about, you know, what else we can be doing for this next month of August. I hope this helped, and you know, I just want to encourage you, if you are someone who is interested in sticking around with this boycott, to not give up hope. I feel like, yeah, when you consider a lot of the things that are happening, things are definitely more in our favor than in favor of the bullies who got rid of Valko in the first place. It's all just a waiting game right now. Honestly, it's just a matter of waiting, a matter of patience, but sooner or later we will hear from Infold. Now, I really hope that it's the news that we want to hear, but whether it's the news that we want to hear or not, there will most definitely be an official statement. Like, they're not just going to ignore us and move on like nothing happened. But yeah, that's everything that I wanted to say. Bye!